So if you notice, we want to make sure we get our faucet to allow it to move freely, right? So we don't want this to catch on our backsplash, even though you can tell it's fairly tight back there, but it's just good enough. So the number one thing is set this up, make sure it's correct. Then you go down underneath the sink again, and you're gonna basically tighten the nut as much as you can for the faucet. So that is the nut right there, and basically you just have to make sure those two screws, those Phillips screws, are nice and tight. Now you don't want to use a drill, you want to use a screwdriver, so that way you can feel how tight that is, because you are screwing into a countertop and it's stone, and even though you have that washer there to protect the countertop, you don't want to overdo it. You just want to make it snug enough so the faucet doesn't move. If it does move in the future, you could always get underneath again and retighten it. So now the second step is for us to get a screwdriver and get this done. So let's put the camera down. We're gonna realign this guy here, and let's see what we can do now. All right. So I'm gonna get my screwdriver. Need a nice number 2 Phillips screwdriver, which we're gonna grab right now. Try to find it in my bag. Okay. And that is simple Phillips screwdriver, and we're gonna get underneath. Try and do this. Okay, so the space is really tight and limited, so you want to make sure you have everything with you, and take it one step at a time and be patient. So, one faucet installation, almost down. Okay, that's nice and tight. Now we're gonna tighten that a little more, and then you're gonna go back once over on each Phillips screw, to make sure it's as snug as possible. Okay, so now let's check our faucet and let's see what we got. So our faucet now is gonna be snug. You see it's not moving, and we can call that a success. Now the next step is to connect your water lines and your water supply to the faucet. So this actually is the actual pull-out faucet nozzle. So this is going to get connected to that digital valve, and then these are your 2 water supplies, hot and cold, and this is the actual water connection from the digital valve. So both of these devices are going to go through that, and when you put your hand underneath the faucet, it basically supplies water to the valve and then supplies water to the faucet. So fairly simple, just a little digital technology. What we're gonna do is connect our electrical connections first. So we got the RJ11 jack here, and then the 4-pin connector. And let me get the light so you guys can see that too. And there we go. So we got our RJ11 connection, and then we got our 3-pin connector here, and our 12 volt that we need to connect, so we can't forget about that. You'll need to make sure you have this 12 volt power supply. Usually Kohler will supply it, and we're gonna go ahead and get this connected as well. And we have a cable path through here. This is some that you can just snap off, and you can run your cable right through here, connect that. Okay, your RJ11 connector, or just actually, yeah, maybe it's RJ11. Okay, And then we get this 3-pin connector now. Need to make sure this plug is correct, so just be gentle with it because they're small parts, and if you force them they can break. So they're snug, they're in there, you know you're ready when you got that. Then this needs to get mounted, so all your wires are going to get routed through this one connection here. And then the other thing is, these are your screw holes. Make sure your wires don't get pinched in here, because if they do, then you'll have a hole in your cable, and that's not going to be good. So the way to do that is to make sure these wires actually, let me disconnect the valve here. Okay, what we're going to do is make sure those wires run through the bottom like that, and then the valve. So now really is no way of pinching those wires very easily. Alright, let's connect the valve. Power to the valve. Okay. And with cables in the way now, it's a little tougher, but alright. So now we got power plug to the valve, power plug to the digital board, and that's gonna sit right there, just like that. And then we're gonna mount this on the wall. Now we already had this mounted before this faucet was removed because it had a defective valve. So we had that replaced, and now we just need to basically mount it. So we're not going to go too crazy with the mounting. We're just going to put 2 regular screws in there for now, just to hold it up. When you screw in the drywall like that, you've got to make sure you have nothing behind that wall. So don't put very long screws, because that's how you can make a hole in whatever's behind the wall. So you want to use something like this, for example, and let's check that. Let's see, will that work just fine? As you see, it protrudes through, but it won't hold in drywall very well. So what we want to do is find some longer screws. All right,